everyone, this is Samantha here from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. I'm sharing with you today another tutorial using the half mold flip melt and pour soap technique. I introduced this technique in my last video where I made these pretty coloured soap bars with these individual patterns on them. The patterns came from the soap mold that I used. And they turned out really well. But I wanted to show you something different today using the same technique. So I think you'll agree that these soap bars here have a completely different aesthetic from the ones that I just showed you, yet they were made in a very similar way. So we have frosted snowflake shapes embedded inside coloured transparent soap bars. So I have added a little bit of sparkle in form of some glitter. But if we look at it side on, you can see that it is still a two-layered soap and that snowflake sits in the centre of the bar. But it's a transparent bar and you can see the frosted snowflake. It almost is like an etched glass effect. It's really pretty and really beautiful, and we're about to get started making them. So here is the soap mold that I'm using today. It's a 6-cavity mold with different snowflake designs at the bottom of each cavity. All the cavities are different shapes, but the shapes are symmetrical, and that is important. You need to have symmetrically shaped cavities for this effect to work. So what I'm going to do first is weigh out a tiny bit of soap just to fill the snowflake shapes. I'm going to be using this little glass measuring cup. There's a link to where you can find these in the video description if you're interested. So each of the snowflake shapes needs approximately 10 grams to fill them. So that's 60 grams all up, plus I always like to add a little bit extra for wastage. So I've got 69 grams here, and I've melted that down. Now, I'm not going to scent this at this stage. I think that's unnecessary, but I am going to pretty it up. So I do have some eco glitter here. I'm just dipping the end of a bamboo skewer in the soap and then in the glitter, and I'm doing that twice, and that is all you need, just a teeny tiny amount. Don't overdo your glitter or it can take over. I also have this beautiful pearlescent white mica. It's called Fluffy Clouds, and I love it. And I'm going to pop some of that in as well. That's going to give us a white snowflake color, but it's also going to be semi-transparent. I have some isopropyl alcohol that I'm just spraying down the mica with, and that's going to help me stir it in nice and evenly. I'm giving that a good stir, and when all the glitter and all the mica is properly dispersed, then I can start pouring. I'm giving each cavity a really good spray with isopropyl alcohol before I start, just to help the soap flow through the cavity. Look, I recommend using a pipette for this, but I was fresh out of pipettes, so I had to just use what I had. I'm going to clean it up later, but yeah, probably a pipette is probably best to use because you just want the soap in the snowflake shape and not sort of anywhere else in the bottom of the cavity. So as I was filling these up, I realized that I didn't actually have enough transparent soap left to make 6 bars of soap. So what I decided to do was just make 3. And so I poured the rest of the soap just into this one cavity here. I'll be able to remelt that and use it again later with something else. Okay, so I have here a little scraper, which I'm just going to use to clean up my designs because I didn't use a pipette. I'm just sort of scraping away any of the soap that's in areas where it's not supposed to be. The key to this soap coming out well is to make sure that, the snowflake design is really clean, like it's got really sharp edges and there's no little wispy bits of soap or anything where they shouldn't be. And that's what's going to make the snowflake designs look crisp and clear. So it is worth spending time cleaning up your snowflakes and making sure that you don't have any soap where there shouldn't be. So here is what my snowflakes look like, all nice and cleaned up. As you can see, they're very straight and neat lines. I'm just going to take this bit of soap out and put it aside for some other time. But you can see how the glitter and the white mica together make a really good snowflake color. So the next task is to pour my layer of colored soap. So I'm going to be doing half the soap volume. So the finished weight of the soaps will be anywhere from 90 to 100 grams because the cavities do differ based on their shape. And I want to do half of the soap, that's the half of the half mold flip. So I'm weighing out 50 grams here. I'm still using the same transparent soap base. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a stir just to check that it's all fully melted, which it is. So I have here some soap dyes that I'm going to be using today, some red and some purple and some green. I'm just going to pop these down here. I'm just going to be colouring 1 bar of soap at a time, which is why I've only weighed out 50 grams here. This is for 1 bar of soap. I'm adding some essential oil, some juniper berry essential oil. It's a beautiful, fresh, wintry scent that I think is fitting for my snowflakes. I'm going to add 1 drop, just 1 drop of green dye, and I'm stirring that in, and when that's fully stirred, I'm going to spray my cavity with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Just bear with me while I get my spray bottle working. There we go. And then I'm just going to pour this straight in on top. Very, very simple. There's a little bit of foam sitting on the surface of my soap that I'm just sort of spooning together, and then I can spray it with the alcohol again to pop all those bubbles and get rid of it. There we go. Beautiful. I'm happy with that. It's looking lovely. All right, so now it's on to the next color. So again, I'm going to weigh out 50 grams exactly of my transparent soap base and melt it in the microwave. When you're doing small amounts like this, it's probably best to maybe do it in 20-second increments, not 30-second increments, because it's such a small amount you can overheat it. This one is going to be purple. I got a little bit of dried flaky purple from the rim, from the lid there, so I'm just changing spoons because I don't want that in my soap. I am adding my juniper berry essential oil again. I've weighed out 1.25% is what I like to use when I use essential oils, and I am popping that in as well after giving the surface a good spray with the alcohol, and then a second spray to get rid of those bubbles. All right, and my final color here will be the red. So I don't use soap dyes a lot. Yes, soap dyes do migrate and they do bleed, but in this case it's just going to be migrating into clear soap, so it's not really going to be a problem. And I really, really like the subtle, sort of transparent color that you get from soap dyes, so that's why I'm using them in this case. I don't use them a lot. The liquid colors you normally see me use are pigments, not dyes, but I decided today I'd use my dyes. So here we go. Alrighty, some more juniper berry essential oil. Give that a stir. And 1 drop of red dye. There you go. Giving that a good stir. It's actually a bit hard to see against my red set of scales, but here we go. So I'm pouring that in. Oh, and I can see that some of my dye wasn't stirred in properly, so that's why I'm just giving it another stir now. There was also a little bit of speck of something in there that I'm taking out. A blob. And I'm still seeing some wispy bits, so I'm just going to use the end of my bamboo skewer here just to stir it in a little bit better. There we go. And that is done. I'm going to put this aside until it's fully set. Now my soaps are completely set and cool to the touch. I am going to actually demold what I've done so far, very carefully just to make sure I don't wreck my snowflakes. Just pop them out here. And as you can see, they're looking very pretty with the pretty background colors and also the lovely frosty snowflakes there. Okay, so this is the half part of the half mold flip technique. I have half a bar of soap that I've now demolded. I've also want to do something about these turned up edges here. So I'm just going to get a knife and I'm just going to shave off the upturned edges on each of these bars of soap. You can use a bevel to do this. I used a bevel last time, but because these soaps, see for example, this one has a sort of a curved edge, a bevel probably wouldn't work. So I'm just using a large knife. There we go. Okay, and now the next step is the flip part. So I'm flipping these soaps over and putting them back in the mold. I'm pushing them down as far as they can go in the mold. And now, yep, just making sure, I can't push them all the way down, obviously, because of the snowflake shapes, but just making sure that they're sort of sitting flat and flush with that bottom part of the cavity. And now it's time for my second layer. So the second layer, all three soaps are going to get a layer of clear. So I've just melted out 150 grams of transparent soap base. Just giving it a stir now because it's not fully melted yet. As you can see, there was a bit of a chunk there. So I'm just stirring it and checking for chunks. I'm not going to scent this layer. It just helps with the clarity. I mean, juniper berry probably wouldn't affect the clarity that much, but some other essential oils and some other fragrance oils can affect your clarity. So for clarity's sake, I am not scenting this layer. Again, just making sure these are all pushed down as far as they'll go. And I'm going to give each one a good spray with isopropyl alcohol again and just pour to the very top another layer of clear. So another 50 grams into each cavity because I weighed out 150 grams of soap. So there we go. I just feel like here the green soap doesn't have as much in it as the other two colors, so I'm just spooning some over just to more evenly distribute my soap base. There we go. A spray with alcohol to get rid of any of the bubbles, and again, all I have to do now is wait for that to set. Okay, so my soaps are finally ready. I'm going to pop them out. They're fully set and cooled down. Let's have a look at them. I mean, you can pretty much see what they're going to look like from the top anyway, because we're looking through a clear layer. But let's have a look. Some of the soap has sort of slipped down the edges, down underneath the soaps. So just pull that off where that's happened. Shouldn't be too hard. There we go. Let's have a look. So we've got green, we've got purple, we've got red. Purple looking, you can't see it from here. It's looking a little bit uneven, but I'm not sure why. Like it's not, the layers aren't even. But anyway, let's have a look. This is the green. Love the sparkle. You can see it from the side. That snowflake is in the center. You can even see it from the back as well there. But really what we want to do is look at this side where you can see the glitter and the shimmer from the mica, but it's inside the soap. So as you use the soap, the snowflake will always be on the inside, and that snowflake design is going to last, you know, as long as it can while the soap is used. Okay, look, there's a little bit stuck on the back here. That's why it wasn't sitting flat. There we go. Pop that off as well. Just check that there's no little bits that have crept down to the bottom. And I think they look pretty fantastic. All right, what I am going to do is I am going to just give them a bit of a buff and a shine. I'm using this cloth here, which is actually made from wood cellulose, so there's no lint on it. And instead of beveling my edges, what I'm going to do is I'm just rubbing the edges of my soap against this cloth, which has got quite a rough texture to it. And that's just enough to sort of soften the edges of my soap and round off any turned up edges. And then I can also buff the surface. I like to buff in a circular motion so you don't get any sort of lines on the surface of your soap. Here again with the green, I'm just sort of buffing each edge just to soften it a bit. There we go. And a bit of a buff for the back, a bit of a buff and a shine. It's looking pretty good. Especially a soap like this, which has the curved edges, you can just use the cloth just to soften those edges out rather than rubbing the edge of the soap, which you can't do because it's sort of curved. You can still rub it with the cloth and sort of soften those edges, which is what I'm doing here. There we go, all buffed up and looking pretty. Look at that. Okay, so here they are. They might show up a little bit better actually with the darker background. There we go. You can sort of see the snowflakes a little bit better against the blue than you could against the white. But I think those are just lovely. What do you guys think? So here they are, my beautiful frozen fractal melt and pour soap bars, made using the half mold flip technique. Let me know in the comments what you think about this technique. Is it something you might want to try? I think it's a pretty simple technique that anyone can give a go. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you love what I do. And until next time, guys, enjoy.